Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review The Police's debut 1978 album, Outlandos de Amor. This album is pretty good. It's got a lot of good songs and flows pretty well. This is a really good debut for them, actually. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 7 out of 10, all of them but 3. This album is really great for sure. Most of the tracks on here are pretty good, and the very few not great tracks are still pretty decent. The opening track, Next to You, works amazingly. The album never drops the energy after that. It's just all the way. It flows amazingly. Side 1 is essentially great. The opening track is upbeat. Next few are a little bit more mid to low speed, creating a sort of tonal valley until the 5th track, which is another upbeat, high-speed track. Side 2 isn't quite as good, but the first 3 tracks are pretty great, and the last 2 alright, although they don't really fit with the rest of the album, in my opinion. Track number 9 is especially weird. It's hard to explain, but that one's a weird one. And track 10 is just an instrumental track. So that's kind of a decent one to end on, but a little bit funky. So overall, definitely a great album, certainly worth listening to. Most of the tracks here are good. There are just a few that are a little bit more strange, but they add a nice bit of color to the album, I would say. So there were 2 singles released before the album, Roxanne and Can't Stand Losing You, both of which were popular on the radio at the time, although Roxanne a lot more. That's one of their most famous songs now from The Police. Not their most famous, but definitely one of their big hits that you would recognize. So my favorite track here, though, is definitely got to go with Peanuts, 5th track. Final track on side 1. It's just my personal favorite out of the majority of great tracks here. I like the lyrics a bit more than on some of the other tracks. I really like Roxanne as well, but Peanuts is obviously not as overplayed. And in general, I would say it's sort of my favorite out of the style of song that they do the best here. Now, I rank this album second worst out of the 5 Police albums, mostly because they just get progressively better after this. This is their debut, and most of the albums after this are better. Except for Synchronicity, which I don't really like, and I don't think comes together very well. I think all of their other ones are more come together better. But in any case, their next album, Regata de Blanc, is definitely an improvement over Outlandos in terms of quality and variety. So I'm confident in this placement on the ranking. Additionally, this album doesn't take my top spot from 1978. That goes to Queen's Jazz, which is nearly perfect and definitely a higher quality and better album than Outlandos de Amor. Although it is a bit of competition. It's not an easy victory in any sense for Jazz, but Jazz it's just an almost perfect album. So it's really difficult to beat here. Outlandos definitely would take it in a less competitive year. Next up is Blondie's debut self-titled 1976 album, so just called Blondie. I'm going to be listening to all of Blondie's albums. This is their first one, so I'm pretty excited to get started here on them. I like their songs, and I think they're really innovative, so stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.